Back in the day, ground beef was the secret weapon of resourceful home cooks, stretching tight budgets and feeding families with hearty, flavorful meals.
And just kind of stir them around until they...
Over time, these timeless dishes have been forgotten, replaced by quick fixes and fast food. Today, we're bringing back 25 ground beef recipes that were once staples on dinner tables, honoring the creativity and love that went into every single bite. Dish 1: Beef and Biscuit Casserole. Let's start with something that smells like home: beef and biscuit casserole. If you were a kid in the 1950s or 1960s, there's a good chance this was one of those dinners your mom would pull out on busy weeknights. Something hearty, easy to throw together, and always filling. The layers of seasoned ground beef, golden biscuit dough, and gooey cheddar cheese made every bite feel like a hug on a plate. This dish hails from an era when families had to be resourceful, using pantry staples to create something hearty and satisfying. A time when meals like this were perfect for both busy weekdays and Sunday suppers. Beef, biscuits, and cheese, what could go wrong? Nothing, as it turns out. The beauty of this dish lies in its simplicity and how those few ingredients come together to create something so much greater than the sum of its parts. You can make the dish with ground beef, onion, garlic, frozen peas, cheddar cheese, biscuit dough, milk, butter, salt, and pepper. Start by browning the ground beef in a skillet over medium heat. As it cooks, add finely chopped onions and garlic, letting them soften and infuse the beef with that rich, aromatic flavor. When the beef is fully browned, stir in the frozen peas. Yes, peas, don't knock it till you try it. And a little milk to give the mixture a nice, creamy texture. Season with salt and pepper to taste. Now, grab your trusty biscuit dough. If you're feeling fancy, go for homemade, but we all know that the store-bought kind gets the job done just as well. Roll the dough into small pieces and scatter them over the beef mixture in a greased casserole dish. Don't worry about being neat. The dough will puff up and cover everything in a beautiful golden crust as it bakes. Pop the casserole into a preheated oven and bake until the biscuit dough is golden brown and bubbly, about 25 to 30 minutes. Sprinkle a generous amount of shredded cheddar cheese on top in the last few minutes of baking so it melts into a gooey, cheesy dream. When it comes out, you'll have a casserole that's golden on top, creamy in the middle, and savory all around. You'll be tempted to dive right in. Dish 2: Ground Beef Stroganoff. Beef stroganoff. It sounds so elegant, doesn't it? Like something that should be served in a fancy French restaurant with delicate portions and crystal glasses. But let's rewind a little and talk about how this luxurious-sounding dish found its way into American kitchens, and more specifically, how ground beef made it a weeknight staple for families. Originally a Russian dish named after the wealthy Stroganov family, beef stroganoff became popular in the United States in the mid-20th century, but it was often made with pricier cuts of beef. Then came ground beef, the hero of the home cook, stepping in to make this once fancy dish affordable for every household. Creamy, savory, and oh so comforting ground beef. Stroganoff quickly became a favorite that graced tables across America, especially on those chilly evenings when all you wanted was a bowl of something warm and rich. You can make the dish with ground beef, onion, garlic, mushrooms, sour cream, beef broth, Worcestershire sauce, egg noodles, and salt and pepper. Start by browning the ground beef in a skillet. Once it's nicely browned and crispy, add in your chopped onions and garlic, letting them cook down until fragrant and soft. Next, add sliced mushrooms. Yes, those little spongy morsels will soak up all the goodness of the beef and make this dish even heartier. Now, pour in beef broth and a splash of Worcestershire sauce. Let the whole mixture simmer, allowing the flavors to meld together. It should start to thicken as it cooks. When the beef mixture looks rich and savory, stir in a dollop or two of sour cream. This is what turns your sauce from good to great, smooth, tangy, and creamy all at once. Season with salt and pepper to taste. Meanwhile, cook your egg noodles according to the package instructions. Once they're done, drain them and then add them to the beef and mushroom mixture. Toss it all together until the noodles are coated in that luscious, creamy sauce. And there you have it, ground beef stroganoff, just like Mom used to make. If your mom was a kitchen wizard, that is. Dish 3: Sloppy Joes. Sloppy Joes, the quintessential school lunch that's somehow turned into a beloved dinner table favorite. There's something irresistibly nostalgic about the messy, saucy sandwich that has been gracing our plates for decades. While its origins remain a bit of a mystery, Many believe it was invented in the 1930s by a chef named Joe, or perhaps even named after a diner in the Midwest. Regardless of where or how it was born, it quickly became a staple in kitchens across the country, especially in the form of a quick, satisfying weeknight dinner. What makes Sloppy Joes so universally loved is their sheer simplicity. Ground beef, a handful of seasonings, and a gooey, tangy sauce come together to make one of the most deliciously messy meals you'll ever eat. The beauty of this dish lies in its ease. Everything comes together in one pan, and there's no need for fancy techniques or complicated steps. And let's not forget the name. Who could resist a meal that practically begs you to eat with your hands, slathering sauce all over the place? It's the definition of comfort food. Whether it's piled high on a soft hamburger bun or served with a side of crispy fries, Sloppy Joes remain the epitome of homey satisfaction. For many, Sloppy Joes were the ultimate in quick weeknight meals. They were full of flavor, easy to throw together, and let's face it, a little bit of a mess, making them all the more fun to eat. What's better than a juicy, sloppy sandwich that you can dive into without worrying about neatness? It's a hands-on experience, and one that always feels like you're indulging in a little bit of nostalgia. The dish's hearty meat filling is complemented by a tangy sauce, making every bite bursting with savory goodness. You can make the dish with ground beef, onion, green bell pepper, garlic, ketchup, mustard, brown sugar, Worcestershire sauce, hamburger buns, and salt and pepper. Start by heating a skillet over medium heat and browning the ground beef. Use a spoon to break it up into small crumbles as it cooks. Once the beef is fully browned, drain off any excess fat and add in chopped onions, green bell peppers, and minced garlic. Let the vegetables cook down until they're soft and fragrant, about 5 minutes. This is the base of your Sloppy Joe, where all the savory goodness begins to build. Now, stir in your ketchup and mustard to give the sauce that signature tang. Add a bit of brown sugar to balance out the acidity and pour in a dash of Worcestershire sauce to deepen the flavor. Let everything simmer together for about 10 to 15 minutes, allowing the sauce to thicken up and become a rich, flavorful mixture. Taste the mixture and adjust with salt and pepper if needed. Once everything has come together, it's time to assemble your Sloppy Joes. Spoon the savory beef mixture generously onto soft hamburger buns. Don't be shy. After all, it's called Sloppy Joe for a reason. The sauce should spill over the edges, dripping down onto your plate, or, let's be honest, your lap. Serve your Sloppy Joes with a side of crispy potato chips or some tangy pickles for that perfect contrast. The result is a meal that's as nostalgic as it is delicious, full of flavor, a little messy, and a whole lot of fun to eat. Dish 4, Chili Mac. If there's one dish that combines the best of both worlds, hearty chili and comforting macaroni, it's Chili Mac. The kind of meal you'd throw together when the weather turned cold, when the family was starving, and when there was nothing quite as satisfying as a big bowl of cheesy, beefy pasta. Chili Mac was the answer to what's for dinner in many American households throughout the 1960s and 1970s. Now, if you're picturing a fancy gourmet meal, forget it. This is a humble, down-to-earth dish that's all about combining two comfort foods into one magical creation. Ground beef, kidney beans, tomatoes, and a mix of chili spices come together in a bubbling pot, topped with tender macaroni and a melty layer of cheese. It's the kind of dish that sticks to your ribs and warms you up from the inside out. Chili Mac had its origins in the Midwest, where casseroles and one-pot dishes were king. Families loved the convenience of this dish, and its versatility made it an easy favorite. Some folks added bell peppers or jalapenos for a little extra kick, while others kept it simple. Either way, it was always a hit, whether you were feeding a crowd or just trying to stretch a single pound of ground beef into a filling meal. You can make the dish with ground beef, elbow macaroni, kidney beans, diced tomatoes, chili powder, cumin, garlic, shredded cheddar cheese, salt, pepper, and water or beef broth. Start by browning the ground beef in a large skillet or Dutch oven. As it cooks, break it apart into small crumbles. Once the beef is nicely browned, stir in some minced garlic and cook until fragrant. Add the chili powder and cumin, giving everything a good stir to coat the beef with those warm, spicy aromas. Next, pour in a can of diced tomatoes along with the juice and add the kidney beans, drained and rinsed. Add a little water or beef broth to help create a bit of sauce and bring everything to a simmer. Let it cook for about 15 minutes, allowing the flavors to meld and the sauce to thicken. Meanwhile, cook your elbow macaroni according to the package instructions. Once it's done, drain it and add it to the beef mixture. Stir everything together, and then top it off with a generous handful of shredded cheddar cheese. Cover the pan for a few minutes, allowing the cheese to melt into a gooey, cheesy layer of goodness. Serve it hot, straight from the pot, and enjoy every cheesy, savory bite. Dish 5. Beef and rice, stuffed peppers. Stuffed peppers are the kind of meal that takes a little effort, but when you sit down to that first bite, you'll understand why they were such a popular dish in mid-century American kitchens. This particular recipe, with its hearty filling of ground beef, rice, and tomatoes, was often a go-to for busy families who needed something both filling and nutritious. The peppers add a colorful, fresh twist, and they're filled with all the cozy flavors you crave. This dish hails from a time when families made the most out of what they had. Ground beef, rice, and vegetables, common pantry ingredients, were the backbone of many meals during the 50s and 60s. Stuffed peppers became a practical, delicious way to stretch a pound of ground beef into a meal that could feed a family. And the best part? The peppers themselves. Sweet, slightly tangy, and full of texture, they were the perfect vessel for the savory filling. Over time, families put their own spin on this dish. Some added cheese on top, others threw in extra seasonings for a little kick. But no matter how you make them, beef and rice stuffed peppers are always a crowd pleaser. They're perfect for weeknight dinners or as a hearty weekend dish when you have time to let everything bake together. You can make the dish with ground beef, cooked rice, onion, garlic, bell peppers, diced tomatoes, tomato sauce, Worcestershire sauce, salt, pepper, and shredded cheese, optional. Start by cutting the tops off your bell peppers and removing the seeds and membranes. Be careful not to tear the flesh of the peppers. Set them aside while you prepare the filling. In a skillet, brown the ground beef with chopped onions and garlic. As the beef cooks, use a spoon to break it up into small crumbles. Once the beef is browned, stir in the cooked rice and diced tomatoes with their juice. Season with Worcestershire sauce, salt, and pepper to taste, and cook for a few more minutes until everything is well combined and heated through. Stuff each pepper with the beef and rice mixture, pressing it in gently to pack it full. Place the stuffed peppers upright in a baking dish. If you're feeling cheesy, sprinkle shredded cheese on top of each one before covering the dish with foil. Bake at 350 degrees for about 30 to 40 minutes, until the peppers are tender and the filling is hot. If you didn't already add cheese, now's your chance. Remove the foil and sprinkle a little extra cheese on top, then return the dish to the oven for a few minutes to melt. When they come out, you've got perfectly stuffed peppers, warm, filling, and full of flavor. Dish 6. Beef and potato pie. What do you get when you combine ground beef, potatoes, and a flaky crust? A beef and potato pie, of course. This dish is like the cousin of shepherd's pie, comforting, filling, and perfect for those cold nights when you need something hearty. The ground beef is cooked with onions, garlic, and seasonings, then layered with creamy mashed potatoes and baked to perfection. Beef and potato pie, often served during the Depression era, was a simple, budget-friendly meal that relied on affordable ingredients. It was the kind of dish that could stretch a small amount of beef to feed a whole family. And the best part? The crispy, golden brown top of mashed potatoes that forms during baking, giving you the perfect contrast to the soft, savory filling underneath. This meal was often enjoyed in the homey kitchens of the 1940s and 1950s, where families learned to make the most out of what they had. A little ground beef, some leftover mashed potatoes, and a basic pie crust. What more could you ask for? It's a dish that stands the test of time and continues to be a great way to get everyone to the table. You can make the dish with ground beef, onions, garlic, potatoes, butter, milk, salt, pepper, flour, pie crust, store-bought or homemade, and Worcestershire sauce. Start by cooking the ground beef in a large skillet over medium heat. Add chopped onions and garlic, cooking until the onions soften and become fragrant. Once the beef is browned, sprinkle in a little flour to thicken the mixture, then pour in a splash of Worcestershire sauce and a cup of water. Let the mixture simmer for about 10 minutes, allowing the flavors to meld together. Season with salt and pepper to taste. While the beef is simmering, peel and chop your potatoes and then boil them in salted water until they're soft. Drain and mash them with butter, milk, salt, and pepper until smooth and creamy. Set aside. Roll out your pie crust and fit it into a pie dish. Spoon the beef mixture into the crust, spreading it evenly. Top with the creamy mashed potatoes, spreading them over the filling and smoothing them out to the edges of the crust. If you want an extra crispy top, use a fork to create some texture on the surface of the potatoes. Bake in a preheated oven at 375 degrees for about 30 minutes, or until the top is golden brown and slightly crispy. Let it cool for a few minutes before slicing, and you've got yourself a meal that's equal parts nostalgia and comfort. Dish 7. Meatloaf with brown gravy. If there's one dish that screams comfort food more than any other, it's meatloaf with brown gravy. This is a meal that has been filling bellies and warming hearts for generations. For many, meatloaf was a steady fixture on the family dinner table, simple, inexpensive, and oh so satisfying. When it came to meatloaf, you could always count on it to be a crowd pleaser, especially when it was served with a rich, savory brown gravy to pour over the top. The beauty of meatloaf lies in its versatility. You could add a bit of this, a pinch of that, but at the end of the day, the result was always a hearty loaf of beef that was tender on the inside and perfectly browned on the outside. Whether you enjoyed it hot and fresh from the oven or as leftovers the next day, meatloaf always tasted better with a side of mashed potatoes and, of course, a generous helping of brown gravy. Meatloaf wasn't just a dish for everyday meals. It also made its way to dinner parties, potlucks, and special occasions. It became an American classic, and though it's fallen a bit out of favor in recent years, it deserves a comeback. There's something so wonderfully nostalgic about the combination of ground beef, breadcrumbs, and a glaze that caramelizes just right as it bakes in the oven. You can make the dish with ground beef, breadcrumbs, egg, onion, garlic, milk, Worcestershire sauce, ketchup, salt, pepper, and brown gravy mix. Start by preheating your oven to 375 degrees. In a large bowl, combine your ground beef with breadcrumbs, a beaten egg, finely chopped onion, minced garlic, and a little milk to moisten the breadcrumbs. Add Worcestershire sauce, salt, and pepper to taste. Mix everything together until just combined. Be careful not to overwork the meat, or it can become tough. Form the meat mixture into a loaf shape and place it in a greased baking dish. Spread a thin layer of ketchup on top to create a sweet, tangy glaze that will caramelize as the meatloaf bakes. Bake for about 45 to 50 minutes, or until the meatloaf is cooked through and reaches an internal temperature of 160 degrees. While the meatloaf is baking, prepare the brown gravy. You can either use a store-bought packet or make it from scratch by whisking together beef broth, flour, and butter until smooth and thickened. Once the meatloaf is done, remove it from the oven and let it rest for a few minutes before slicing. Serve each slice with a generous pour of brown gravy, mashed potatoes on the side, and perhaps a green vegetable to balance it all out. It's a meal that will make everyone at the table smile. Comforting, nostalgic, and simply delicious. Dish 8. Taco pie. Taco pie, a dish that's part casserole, part taco, and all comfort. It's the sort of meal you'd make when you were craving something flavorful but didn't want to fuss around with a dozen different ingredients. Taco pie was a favorite in many households in the late 1960s and 1970s, and it quickly became a go-to recipe for busy moms looking to make something quick and satisfying for their families. The beauty of taco pie was that it brought together the familiar flavors of tacos in an easy-to-make casserole form. This dish features seasoned ground beef as the base, with layers of tortilla chips or a baked flour crust, topped with cheese and all the fixings you'd expect from a taco. It was customizable, whether you preferred a spicy bite with jalapenos or a simple topping of sour cream. Taco pie offered endless possibilities. In the days before Taco Bell and other fast food taco joints, taco pie was as close as you could get to a taco night at home without the mess. It had everything you love about tacos, but without the hassle of assembling each individual one. It was especially popular for potlucks, where everyone could scoop out a hearty serving and enjoy the cheesy, spicy goodness. You can make the dish with ground beef, taco seasoning, onion, garlic, tomato, corn tortilla chips or flour tortillas, cheddar cheese, lettuce, sour cream, salsa, and jalapenos optional. Begin by browning the ground beef in a skillet over medium heat. As the beef cooks, add diced onion and minced garlic, letting them soften and infuse the beef with flavor. Stir in taco seasoning, along with a splash of water, and cook until the beef is well coated in the spices and the mixture thickens. Next, prepare your casserole dish by lightly greasing it. If you're using flour tortillas, line the bottom of the dish with a layer of tortillas. If you're using corn tortilla chips, just scatter a layer on the bottom. Either works perfectly. Spread half of the seasoned beef mixture over the base, then sprinkle with shredded cheddar cheese. Add another layer of tortilla chips or tortillas, followed by the remaining beef mixture and another generous layer of cheese. Bake the pie at 375 degrees Celsius for about 25 to 30 minutes, or until the cheese is melted and bubbly. Once out of the oven, top your taco pie with fresh, shredded lettuce, diced tomatoes, a dollop of sour cream, and salsa. For a little extra heat, throw on some sliced jalapenos. Slice it like a pie, and serve it with a side of Mexican rice or refried beans for the full experience. Taco pie is everything you love about tacos, wrapped up in a cozy casserole. Dish 9. Beef empanadas. Beef empanadas are the sort of dish that makes you feel like you're traveling through history with every bite. These golden, crispy pockets of savory ground beef have roots that stretch back centuries, with versions of empanadas being made across Spain, Latin America, and even parts of the Middle East. By the mid-20th century, empanadas became a popular treat in American kitchens, especially in regions where there was a strong Latin influence. Whether baked or fried, these little handheld pies quickly became a favorite for parties, picnics, or simple weeknight dinners. The beauty of empanadas lies in the fact that they're incredibly customizable. In their simplest form, they're made with a filling of seasoned ground beef, onions, and sometimes hard-boiled eggs or olives for an extra layer of flavor. Wrapped in a flaky pastry, they're baked or fried until golden brown, making them the perfect bite-sized meal or snack. Empanadas were the kind of food you could take on the go. Wrapped up tightly in their crispy shell, they were easy to pack for lunch or a quick dinner. Back in the day, they were made with whatever ingredients you had on hand, making them a great way to use up leftover beef or vegetables. Today, they still bring that same joy. Each bite is a little taste of nostalgia. You can make the dish with ground beef, onion, garlic, green olives, hard-boiled eggs, cumin, paprika, olive oil, salt, pepper, empanada dough, store-bought or homemade, and an egg for egg wash. Start by browning the ground beef in a large skillet over medium heat. Once the beef is cooked through, add finely chopped onions and garlic, letting them soften and meld with the beef. Stir in chopped green olives, cumin, paprika, salt, and pepper. Let it cook for another 5 minutes, then remove from heat and set aside to cool. Once the filling has cooled, roll out your empanada dough on a lightly floured surface. If you're using store-bought dough, simply cut it into 4 to 6 inch circles. Spoon a generous amount of the beef mixture into the center of each dough circle, then add a slice of hard-boiled egg on top for that extra bit of richness. Fold the dough over the filling to create a half-moon shape, then press the edges together with a fork to seal the empanada. Brush the tops with a beaten egg to create that beautiful golden color once they're baked. Place the empanadas on a baking sheet lined with parchment paper and bake them at 375 degrees Celsius for about 20 to 25 minutes, or until they're golden brown and crispy. If you're feeling adventurous, you can fry them in hot oil instead for a more traditional, crispy finish. Serve them hot with a side of salsa or a cool dipping sauce, and you've got a delicious, nostalgic treat. Dish 10. Beef shepherd's pie. Shepherd's pie, while traditionally made with lamb, found a more accessible version in American kitchens thanks to ground beef. In the mid-1900s, this dish became a beloved staple in many households, especially for its ability to stretch a little ground meat into a filling, hearty meal. The beauty of beef shepherd's pie is in its layers. Savory ground beef and vegetables, crowned by a fluffy layer of mashed potatoes. It's like comfort in a casserole dish, warm, satisfying, and guaranteed to please the whole family. This dish's roots go back to the British Isles, where it was originally created to use up leftover roast meat. When it made its way into American kitchens, ground beef became the preferred choice for its affordability and ease. Shepherd's pie quickly became a favorite in American homes, especially after World War II, when convenience and budget were key considerations for every home cook. It's a dish that feels timeless, simple, and never too fussy. The mashed potatoes on top are key. Creamy and smooth, they provide the perfect contrast to the rich, savory beef filling. And while some recipes have tried to fancy it up with additions like cheese or herbs, the simple version, just meat and potatoes, always has its place. You can make the dish with ground beef, onion, garlic, carrots, peas, corn, beef broth, tomato paste, Worcestershire sauce, mashed potatoes, salt, pepper, and butter. Start by browning the ground beef in a large skillet over medium heat. Once it's browned, add finely chopped onions and garlic, cooking them until fragrant. Stir in diced carrots and cook until softened, about 5 minutes. Then, add peas, corn, and a tablespoon of tomato paste, stirring to combine. Pour in beef broth, a dash of Worcestershire sauce, salt, and pepper. Let this mixture simmer on low for about 15 minutes until the sauce thickens and everything is tender. Meanwhile, prepare your mashed potatoes. Boil peeled potatoes until soft, then mash them with butter, salt, and pepper. Add a little milk if you like them extra creamy. Once the beef mixture is ready, transfer it into a baking dish and spread the mashed potatoes evenly over the top. Use the back of a spoon to smooth out the surface, or get creative with a little texture. Bake at 375 degrees for 20 minutes, or until the potatoes start to brown slightly at the edges. Serve hot and enjoy every hearty, comforting bite. Dish 11. Beef Stroganoff Casserole. Beef stroganoff is one of those dishes that feels both classy and cozy all at once. Its origins are Russian, but by the 1960s, it had become an American classic, especially when made with ground beef. The rich, creamy sauce, tender beef, and mushrooms combined with pasta made for an indulgent dinner that didn't require fancy cuts of meat. In fact, the beauty of this dish is that it's a one-pan wonder, making it both an impressive and easy-to-prepare meal for busy nights or family gatherings. The Americanized version of beef stroganoff, which often replaced the beef tenderloin with ground beef, became a hit in the 1950s. It was served over egg noodles, rice, or mashed potatoes, making it a versatile dish. Its creamy texture came from the addition of sour cream, which gave it the perfect balance of richness and tang. If you've never tried beef stroganoff as a casserole, you're in for a treat. Imagine all the creamy goodness of traditional stroganoff, but with a crispy, cheesy topping that makes it all the more irresistible. You can make the dish with ground beef, onion, garlic, mushrooms, egg noodles, sour cream, beef broth, Worcestershire sauce, cheddar cheese, butter, flour, salt, and pepper. Start by browning the ground beef in a large skillet. Add chopped onions and garlic, cooking until they're soft and fragrant. Stir in sliced mushrooms and cook for another 5 minutes, allowing the mushrooms to release their moisture and become tender. Sprinkle flour over the mixture to thicken the sauce, and then pour in beef broth and Worcestershire sauce. Let the mixture simmer for 10 minutes, stirring occasionally until the sauce thickens up. While the beef mixture is simmering, cook the egg noodles according to package instructions. Drain and set aside. Once the beef sauce is ready, remove it from heat and stir in the sour cream. Season with salt and pepper to taste. In a greased casserole dish, layer the cooked noodles at the bottom, then pour the beef mixture on top. Sprinkle shredded cheddar cheese over the entire casserole. Bake at 350 degrees for about 20 to 25 minutes, or until the cheese is melted and bubbly, and the casserole is golden brown at the edges. Serve hot, and watch everyone dive in for a plate full of creamy, comforting goodness. Dish 12. Beef and Noodle Casserole. Sometimes the simplest dishes are the ones that make the biggest impression. Beef and noodle casserole is the perfect example of that. Easy, hearty, and satisfying. A true product of mid-century American home cooking, this dish combines ground beef, egg noodles, and a creamy sauce, all baked together in a cheesy, bubbly casserole. It's the sort of dish you make when you've had a long day and need something quick, filling, and comforting to feed the family. Beef and noodle casserole was a favorite for many families in the 1960s and 1970s because it was cheap to make and could easily feed a crowd. It was a clever way to stretch a pound of ground beef, using it to create a rich and hearty meal that seemed much more expensive than it actually was. And who doesn't love a casserole that's creamy, cheesy, and baked to perfection? The beauty of this dish lies in its simplicity. The creamy sauce is made from pantry staples like cream of mushroom soup, which, in the mid-20th century, was the star of many casseroles. It adds a rich, velvety texture to the dish, making every bite extra indulgent. And of course, there's always the irresistible golden top, where cheese melts and forms a bubbly, crispy layer. You can make the dish with ground beef, egg noodles, cream of mushroom soup, cheddar cheese, onion, garlic, Worcestershire sauce, salt, pepper, and breadcrumbs. Start by cooking the egg noodles according to the package instructions, then drain and set aside. In a large skillet, brown the ground beef with chopped onions and minced garlic until it's cooked through and the onions are soft. Add a can of cream of mushroom soup and Worcestershire sauce, stirring to combine. Season with salt and pepper to taste, and let the mixture simmer for about 10 minutes until it's well combined. Next, add the cooked noodles to the beef mixture, stirring gently to coat them in the creamy sauce. Transfer everything to a greased casserole dish and top with shredded cheddar cheese. Sprinkle a handful of breadcrumbs on top for a crispy golden finish. Bake at 350 degrees for 25 to 30 minutes, or until the casserole is hot and bubbly and the cheese has melted into a gooey, irresistible layer. Let it cool for a few minutes before serving. It's comfort food at its finest, warm, cheesy, and downright delicious. Dish 13, ground beef and cabbage skillet. Sometimes you don't need a fancy recipe to make something delicious. Ground beef and cabbage skillet is the perfect example of a simple yet satisfying meal that makes the most of humble ingredients. This dish has roots in the working-class kitchens of the mid-20th century, where families learned to stretch their budgets while still delivering a hearty meal. It's one of those one-pan wonders that requires little more than some ground beef, cabbage, and a handful of seasonings. It's quick, flavorful, and perfect for a busy weeknight dinner. Cabbage was a common vegetable during times of economic struggle, especially during the Depression and wartime. It was cheap, nutritious, and could be stored for long periods. Ground beef, meanwhile, was affordable and versatile, making it the perfect protein for feeding a family. Together, they make a simple, balanced meal that's savory and satisfying, with just the right amount of richness from the beef. The beauty of this dish lies in its simplicity. It's hearty without being heavy, and the slight sweetness of the cabbage perfectly complements the savory beef. You'll be amazed at how such a basic combination can create something so satisfying. You can make the dish with ground beef, cabbage, onion, garlic, tomato paste, beef broth, Worcestershire sauce, paprika, salt, pepper, and olive oil. Start by heating a little olive oil in a large skillet over medium heat. Add your ground beef, breaking it apart as it cooks. Brown it until it's fully cooked and no longer pink. Once the beef is browned, add finely chopped onion and garlic. Cook for about 5 minutes until the onion softens and becomes translucent. Next, stir in a couple of tablespoons of tomato paste, letting it cook for a minute or so to deepen the flavor. Add a cup of beef broth and a dash of Worcestershire sauce, bringing everything to a simmer. Season with paprika, salt, and pepper to taste. Now, take a medium-sized head of cabbage and slice it into thin strips. Add the cabbage to the skillet, stirring it in with the beef mixture. Cover the skillet and cook for 10 to 15 minutes, stirring occasionally until the cabbage is tender and has absorbed all the flavors of the beef and broth. Taste for seasoning and adjust if necessary. Once everything is tender and well combined, serve the dish hot, perhaps with a side of crusty bread or mashed potatoes. It's simple, but the kind of meal that sticks with you. There's no need for anything extra, just hearty, satisfying food at its best. Dish 14, beef and potato hash. Beef and potato hash is the kind of dish that was made to use up leftovers. Ground beef, potatoes, and whatever vegetables you had in the fridge, all thrown into a skillet and cooked together. It's one of those dishes that might not have a fancy name, but once you taste it, you realize it's a meal that has stood the test of time. This comforting hash was popular during the 1940s and 1950s, especially in households where frugality was key, and there was a constant need to stretch ingredients into multiple meals. It's a hearty, one-pan wonder made with crispy potatoes and seasoned ground beef, often topped with a fried egg for extra richness. It's perfect for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and it's guaranteed to fill you up without much fuss. The crispy bits of potato combined with the savory beef and seasonings are incredibly satisfying, and the fried egg adds a rich, gooey element that takes it over the top. You can make the dish with ground beef, potatoes, onion, garlic, bell pepper, Worcestershire sauce, paprika, eggs, salt, pepper, and olive oil. Start by peeling and dicing your potatoes into small cubes. Heat a couple of tablespoons of olive oil in a large skillet over medium heat. Add the potatoes, spreading them out in an even layer, and cook them until golden and crispy, about 10 minutes. Stir occasionally to make sure they cook evenly. Once the potatoes are crispy, remove them from the skillet and set them aside. In the same skillet, add your ground beef. Break it apart as it cooks, letting it brown and crisp up a little. Add chopped onion, garlic, and bell pepper, cooking until the vegetables soften, about 5 minutes. Stir in a splash of Worcestershire sauce and a generous sprinkle of paprika, salt, and pepper. Once everything is cooked through, return the potatoes to the skillet and stir everything together, allowing the flavors to meld. Let it all cook for another 5 to 10 minutes so the potatoes soak up the savory goodness from the beef. For an extra touch, top the hash with a fried egg, either sunny side up or scrambled, depending on your preference. Serve hot, and you've got a meal that's as comforting as it is satisfying. This is the kind of dish that will fill you up and keep you coming back for more. Dish 15. Beef and bean burritos. If there's one meal that stood the test of time and crossed generations, it's beef and bean burritos. This dish has roots in Mexican-American cuisine and became a favorite in the 1960s and 1970s, especially in households that wanted to bring a little spice and flavor into their kitchens without too much effort. Ground beef and beans are the perfect combo for a filling, flavorful burrito, and you can easily customize the fillings with whatever you have on hand. These burritos are hearty, tasty, and totally satisfying, whether you're enjoying them for lunch, dinner, or a snack. Burritos are so versatile. They can be made as simple or as complex as you like. This version keeps things simple, relying on the combination of seasoned ground beef, beans, and cheese to create a flavorful filling. You could also add some fresh veggies like lettuce, tomatoes, or onions for a little crunch, or a dollop of sour cream or salsa for some extra zest. Back in the day, burritos were often seen as a fun, exotic meal that was still quick and easy to prepare. This was a dish that could feed a crowd without much effort, and it became a popular choice for family dinners and even parties. You can make the dish with ground beef, refried beans, onion, garlic, taco seasoning, flour tortillas, cheddar cheese, sour cream, salsa, and lettuce, optional. Start by browning the ground beef in a skillet over medium heat. Once it's cooked through, add chopped onions and garlic, cooking until the onions are soft and translucent. Stir in taco seasoning, store-bought or homemade, along with a little water, letting the beef absorb the flavors for about 5 minutes. Once the beef mixture is done, add a can of refried beans to the skillet and stir to combine. Let it simmer for another few minutes until everything is well mixed and heated through. While the beef and bean mixture is cooking, warm your flour tortillas in a dry skillet or microwave. Once everything is ready, spoon a generous amount of the beef and bean mixture onto each tortilla, then sprinkle with shredded cheddar cheese. Roll up the tortillas, folding in the sides to secure the filling inside. Serve with sour cream, salsa, and perhaps a little shredded lettuce if you like. These beef and bean burritos are an easy, filling meal that will take you back to those good old days when a delicious homemade dinner didn't require hours of preparation. Dish 16. Beef and macaroni casserole. There's something magical about casseroles. They bring together simple ingredients in one dish and transform them into something delicious and comforting. Beef and macaroni casserole is one of those classics that was served up time and time again in households across America. This dish became a favorite during the 1950s and 1960s because it was hearty, easy to prepare, and could feed a family without breaking the bank. Think of it as an old-school version of mac and cheese with a savory, beefy twist. Ground beef, elbow macaroni, and a blend of savory seasonings come together in this casserole, topped with cheese for that perfect gooey finish. It's a bit like a cross between spaghetti and a meatball dish, without the mess of spaghetti sauce all over the table. And the best part? You can make it ahead of time and pop it in the oven when you're ready to eat. This casserole is a symbol of mid-century American cooking, a time when convenience and heartiness were king. It's also wonderfully adaptable. Add some vegetables if you like, or throw in extra cheese to make it even richer. It's the kind of dish that you'll make once and find yourself coming back to over and over. You can make the dish with ground beef, elbow macaroni, onion, garlic, tomato sauce, Worcestershire sauce, cheddar cheese, salt, pepper, Italian seasoning, and parsley. Start by cooking the elbow macaroni according to the package instructions. Once it's cooked, drain and set aside. In a large skillet, brown the ground beef over medium heat, breaking it apart as it cooks. Add finely chopped onions and garlic, cooking until they're soft and fragrant. Stir in the tomato sauce and a splash of Worcestershire sauce, followed by a sprinkle of Italian seasoning, salt, and pepper to taste. Let the mixture simmer for about 10 minutes, allowing the flavors to meld together. Preheat your oven to 350 degrees. In a large casserole dish, layer the cooked macaroni and beef mixture, stirring everything together so the pasta is well coated. Top with a generous amount of shredded cheddar cheese. Bake for about 20 to 25 minutes, or until the cheese is melted and bubbly, with a golden brown top. Let it cool for a few minutes before serving. For an extra touch, sprinkle some chopped parsley on top before serving. This simple casserole is warm, cheesy, and packed with flavor, a true family favorite. Dish 17. Beef tostadas. Beef tostadas are one of those dishes that manage to pack a ton of flavor into a simple handheld meal. With its origins in Mexican cuisine, tostadas have long been a go-to for busy families looking for a quick but satisfying meal. In the 1960s and 1970s, tostadas made their way into American kitchens, where they were adapted to fit the tastes of the average home cook. This version with ground beef is hearty, crunchy, and absolutely delicious. The beauty of tostadas lies in the crispy fried corn tortilla that serves as the base. You can top it with whatever you like: ground beef, cheese, lettuce, salsa, or even a dollop of sour cream. It's a customizable meal that feels like a treat, but it's also practical and filling. Plus, it's fun to eat, with everyone assembling their own tostadas at the table. Back in the day, this was a quick weeknight dinner, often made when you didn't have much time but wanted something a little different from the usual routine. Ground beef, seasoned with taco spices, forms the heart of this dish, while the toppings bring it to life with fresh, vibrant flavors. You can make the dish with ground beef, taco seasoning, garlic, onion, corn tortillas, refried beans, lettuce, tomato, shredded cheddar cheese, salsa, and sour cream. Start by browning the ground beef in a skillet over medium heat. Add finely chopped onions and garlic, cooking until softened and fragrant. Stir in the taco seasoning and a splash of water, letting the beef simmer until it's fully cooked and the flavors are absorbed. In a separate skillet, heat some oil over medium heat and fry the corn tortillas until crispy and golden brown. Drain the excess oil on a paper towel. Spread a thin layer of refried beans on each crispy tortilla, then spoon the seasoned ground beef mixture on top. Add shredded lettuce, diced tomatoes, and a sprinkle of cheddar cheese. If you're feeling extra, top with a dollop of sour cream and a drizzle of salsa. Serve your tostadas immediately while they're still crunchy. They're a fun, flavorful dish that's perfect for a family dinner or a casual get-together with friends. Dish 18. Beef and mushroom skillet. Beef and mushroom skillet is the kind of dish that feels a little fancy, but doesn't require much more effort than any weeknight meal. It's a comforting, hearty dish made with tender ground beef and earthy mushrooms, all cooked together in a savory sauce. This dish has its roots in mid-century American kitchens, where ground beef was often paired with a variety of vegetables for a meal that was both filling and nutritious. Mushrooms, with their rich, umami flavor, complement the beef perfectly, while the addition of garlic and herbs gives the dish an extra layer of depth. This was a go-to dish for busy families looking for something quick yet satisfying. Ground beef, often considered a budget-friendly protein, gets elevated with the addition of mushrooms, which were also easy to come by and had a hearty, savory taste that added to the dish's richness. Whether served over mashed potatoes, rice, or noodles, this dish is the definition of comfort food. It's simple, flavorful, and easy to whip up in no time. You can make the dish with ground beef, mushrooms, onion, garlic, beef broth, Worcestershire sauce, thyme, butter, salt, pepper, and flour. In a large skillet, melt butter over medium heat. Add the ground beef, breaking it up as it cooks. Brown the beef until it's fully cooked and browned. Add chopped onions and garlic, cooking until softened and fragrant, about 5 minutes. Stir in sliced mushrooms, cooking them until they release their moisture and become tender, about 5 minutes. Sprinkle a tablespoon of flour over the mixture and stir to coat, allowing the flour to cook for a minute or so to thicken the sauce. Pour in beef broth, Worcestershire sauce, and a sprinkle of thyme. Stir everything together and let it simmer for 10-15 minutes until the sauce thickens and the flavors meld together. Season with salt and pepper to taste. Serve the beef and mushroom mixture over mashed potatoes, egg noodles, or rice. The rich, savory sauce, combined with the tender beef and mushrooms, creates a meal that's as comforting as it is satisfying. Dish 19. Beef and cheese stuffed peppers. Beef and cheese stuffed peppers are a perfect example of how to take a humble vegetable and turn it into something special. Peppers, often used as vessels for stuffing, were a popular choice for families looking for an easy yet filling meal. Ground beef, combined with rice and cheese, fills the peppers in this simple but hearty dish. It's a wonderful mid-century comfort food that can be served as a full meal or as a side dish to complement a larger spread. The combination of beef, rice, and cheese creates a savory filling that pairs perfectly with the sweetness of the bell peppers. Whether you bake them until the peppers are tender or roast them to give them a bit of char, stuffed peppers are always a crowd pleaser. This dish also has the benefit of being easy to make in advance, allowing you to prepare it in the morning and bake it later when it's time for dinner. You can make the dish with ground beef, bell peppers, onion, garlic, rice, diced tomatoes, shredded mozzarella cheese, Italian seasoning, Worcestershire sauce, salt, pepper, and olive oil. Start by cutting the tops off the bell peppers and removing the seeds. If necessary, trim the bottoms so they can stand up in the baking dish. Preheat the oven to 375 degrees. In a skillet, heat some olive oil over medium heat. Add ground beef, cooking until browned. Add chopped onions and garlic, cooking until softened, about 5 minutes. Stir in cooked rice, diced tomatoes, Worcestershire sauce, and Italian seasoning. Let everything cook together for another 5 minutes, seasoning with salt and pepper to taste. Spoon the beef and rice mixture into the hollowed-out peppers, packing them tightly. Place the stuffed peppers in a baking dish and top each one with a generous amount of shredded mozzarella cheese. Cover the dish with foil and bake for about 30 minutes. Then remove the foil and bake for an additional 10 to 15 minutes until the cheese is melted and bubbly and the peppers are tender. Serve hot with a side of crusty bread or a fresh salad. These stuffed peppers are packed with flavor and make for a delicious, filling meal. Dish 20, beef and bean chili. There's nothing quite like a warm, hearty bowl of beef and bean chili on a cold evening, and this dish has been a staple in American kitchens for decades. Chili has its roots in the Southwest and is closely tied to Mexican and Tex-Mex cuisine, but by the mid-20th century, it had become a favorite in households across the country. Ground beef and beans are the perfect pair in this filling, flavorful dish that brings warmth and comfort with every bite. Chili is one of those dishes that you can customize however you like. Add more beans, throw in some extra spices, or even toss in some vegetables for a bit of extra nutrition. The recipe we're diving into here is a classic that hits all the right notes: savory, slightly spicy, and with just the right amount of heartiness. It's a meal that can be made in a big pot, ready to serve a crowd, or stored for leftovers to enjoy later. And let's not forget the toppings. Cheese, sour cream, or a sprinkle of fresh cilantro make this dish even more delicious. You can make the dish with ground beef, kidney beans, black beans, onion, garlic, bell pepper, diced tomatoes, tomato paste, chili powder, cumin, paprika, beef broth, Worcestershire sauce, salt, pepper, and olive oil. Start by heating olive oil in a large pot over medium heat. Add your ground beef, breaking it apart as it cooks. Brown the beef thoroughly, then add finely chopped onions, garlic, and bell pepper. Cook until the vegetables are soft, about 5 minutes. Next, stir in your chili powder, cumin, and paprika, letting the spices toast for a minute to release their flavor. Pour in the diced tomatoes with their juice, tomato paste, and beef broth, stirring to combine. Then add the kidney beans and black beans, draining and rinsing them first. Bring the chili to a simmer and let it cook for 30 to 45 minutes, allowing the flavors to meld together. If the chili thickens too much, add a little more beef broth or water to achieve your desired consistency. Taste and adjust with salt, pepper, and Worcestershire sauce. Serve the chili hot, garnished with your favorite toppings like shredded cheese, sour cream, or chopped green onions. This simple, delicious chili is the perfect meal for a chilly evening or a weekend gathering with friends and family. Dish 21, beef and vegetable soup. There are few meals more satisfying than a big bowl of beef and vegetable soup. It's the ultimate comfort food, a hearty, nourishing dish that's as warming as it is flavorful. This classic soup combines tender chunks of ground beef with a variety of fresh vegetables, all simmered together in a rich, savory broth. It's a meal that's been passed down through generations, a go-to favorite, especially during the colder months when families are craving something hearty and filling to warm them from the inside out. There's just something about a hot bowl of soup that makes everything feel right, and this beef and vegetable soup does it better than most. One of the best things about beef and vegetable soup is its simplicity. It's a one-pot wonder that can be easily adjusted based on what you have on hand. The beauty of this dish is in its versatility. While ground beef is the foundation, the soup can include whatever vegetables are in season, making it perfect for year-round enjoyment. From the heartiness of potatoes to the sweet crunch of carrots and the freshness of celery, Every bite is a little different, but equally comforting. The rich broth, filled with savory beef, and the natural sweetness of the vegetables melds together into a deeply satisfying soup that is both simple and nourishing. Historically, beef and vegetable soup became a popular dish in households because it was a great way to use up leftover beef, whether from a roast or stew. Families would toss whatever vegetables they had on hand into a pot and let the soup simmer away. This method of cooking made it not only a frugal meal, but also a great way to stretch ingredients. It's the kind of meal that's been made countless times in kitchens across the world, and it's always a hit. You can make the dish with ground beef, carrots, potatoes, celery, onion, garlic, diced tomatoes, beef broth, bay leaves, thyme, salt, pepper, and olive oil. Start by heating a little olive oil in a large pot over medium heat. Once the oil is hot, add the ground beef, breaking it apart with a spoon as it browns. This will take about 5 minutes. After the beef is browned and cooked through, drain off any excess fat. Then add your chopped onions, garlic, and celery. Stir and cook for another 5 minutes until the vegetables soften and release their fragrant aromas. Next, add the diced carrots and potatoes, followed by a can of diced tomatoes with their juice. Pour in enough beef broth to cover the vegetables and beef mixture. About 4 cups should do the trick. Toss in a couple of bay leaves and a pinch of thyme, then season with salt and pepper to taste. Stir everything together and bring the soup to a boil. Once boiling, reduce the heat and allow the soup to simmer for about 45 minutes to an hour. This gives the flavors time to meld together and the vegetables to become tender. If the soup thickens too much, feel free to add a bit more beef broth or water to adjust the consistency to your liking. Once everything is tender and the flavors have combined, taste the soup and adjust the seasoning if necessary. If you'd like, you can add a pinch more salt or pepper, or even a little more thyme for added flavor. Serve this delicious soup hot with a slice of crusty bread on the side for dipping, and you've got yourself a classic, comforting meal that's full of love and flavor. This beef and vegetable soup is truly the ultimate comfort food. Simple, nutritious, and brimming with flavors that will fill your belly and warm your soul. Whether you're feeding a crowd or just looking for a way to make the most of what you've got in the kitchen, this soup is a winner every time. Dish 22, beef and cheese enchiladas. Beef and cheese enchiladas bring the vibrant, bold flavors of Mexican cuisine straight into the heart of the American home, making it a beloved dish in kitchens across the country. While Mexican food's popularity soared in the United States during the mid-20th century, enchiladas, especially the beef and cheese variety, quickly became a household favorite. The rich combination of seasoned ground beef, melty cheese, and savory enchilada sauce creates a meal that is both comforting and full of flavor, making it the perfect dish for any occasion. The beauty of enchiladas lies in their versatility. You can fill them with just about anything: chicken, pork, vegetables, or beans. But the classic beef and cheese enchilada remains one of the most cherished versions. The hearty beef mixture is rich and savory, balanced perfectly by the tangy enchilada sauce, while the melted cheese adds an irresistible gooey layer that ties everything together. Each bite offers a symphony of textures and flavors, from the crispy edges of the tortilla to the soft, cheesy filling. Beef and cheese enchiladas are also incredibly easy to assemble, which makes them an ideal dish for both busy weeknights and casual gatherings. The best part? You can prepare them ahead of time, saving you time when it's time to serve. This makes them a great option for meal prepping or even for entertaining guests. The hearty beef filling and tangy sauce ensure the dish is both satisfying and filling, and it pairs wonderfully with sides like rice, beans, or a fresh salad. If you're feeling adventurous, a side of guacamole or sour cream is the perfect addition to complete the meal. These enchiladas are an instant crowd pleaser, perfect for family dinners, potlucks, or any occasion where comfort food is called for. Whether you're introducing them to someone for the first time or making them for the 100th time, they never fail to deliver that sense of warmth and nostalgia that only a well-made, home-cooked meal can provide. You can make the dish with ground beef, onion, garlic, taco seasoning, enchilada sauce, flour or tortillas, shredded cheddar cheese, shredded mozzarella cheese, salt, pepper, and olive oil. Begin by heating olive oil in a skillet over medium heat. Add the ground beef, breaking it apart with a spoon as it cooks. Brown the beef until it's fully cooked, and then add finely chopped onions and minced garlic. Continue to cook for another 5 minutes or until the onions soften and become fragrant. Once the beef and vegetables are cooked, stir in the taco seasoning and a splash of water. Let the mixture simmer for 5 minutes, allowing the flavors to meld together. Season with salt and pepper to taste, adjusting as needed to suit your preference. Preheat your oven to 375 degrees. Pour just enough enchilada sauce into the bottom of a baking dish to lightly cover it. Take your flour tortillas and fill each one with a generous spoonful of the beef mixture and a handful of both shredded cheddar and mozzarella cheese. Roll up the tortillas tightly and place them seam side down in the baking dish, arranging them snugly side by side. Once all the enchiladas are assembled, pour the remaining enchilada sauce over the top, making sure each tortilla is well covered. Then sprinkle the remaining shredded cheese on top of the sauce, ensuring a gooey, cheesy finish when baked. Bake in the preheated oven for 20 to 25 minutes, or until the cheese is melted and bubbly and the enchiladas are heated through. Once they're done, let them cool for a few minutes before serving. Top with a dollop of sour cream, a sprinkle of fresh chopped cilantro, or a few slices of creamy avocado. Serve these hot and enjoy a meal full of comfort, flavor, and warmth that's bound to become a favorite at your table. Dish 23, Beef and Rice Casserole. There's something about a beef and rice casserole that makes it feel like a warm, cozy hug on a plate. This hearty dish was a beloved staple in American kitchens, especially in the 1950s and 1960s, when casseroles were all the rage. Simple to prepare, affordable, and perfect for feeding a crowd, beef and rice casserole became a go-to meal for busy families. Its versatility allowed cooks to adjust the ingredients based on what was available, but the essence of the dish was always the same: ground beef, rice, and a savory, creamy sauce. The beauty of this casserole is in its layers: the tender ground beef, the fluffy rice, and the creamy sauce that brings everything together. It's a one-pan dish that's easy to assemble, and it bakes up beautifully in the oven, leaving you with a comforting, satisfying meal that doesn't take hours of preparation. Beef and rice casserole was often made with pantry staples, making it a frugal option during lean times, but its combination of flavors made it feel like a special treat. Whether you're serving it for a family dinner or potluck, this dish will never disappoint. You can make the dish with ground beef, onion, garlic, rice, cream of mushroom soup, beef broth, Worcestershire sauce, salt, pepper, shredded cheddar cheese, and olive oil. Preheat your oven to 350 degrees. In a large skillet, heat a little olive oil over medium heat. Add the ground beef, breaking it apart as it cooks until browned. Once the beef is cooked, add chopped onions and garlic, cooking for about 5 minutes until the onions are softened and fragrant. Stir in a can of cream of mushroom soup, beef broth, and a splash of Worcestershire sauce. Season with salt and pepper to taste, then bring the mixture to a simmer for about 5 minutes. While that simmers, cook your rice according to the package instructions. Once the rice is done, stir it into the beef mixture, combining everything thoroughly. Transfer the mixture into a greased casserole dish, spreading it evenly. Sprinkle a generous amount of shredded cheddar cheese on top for that perfect cheesy finish. Bake the casserole, uncovered, for 25 to 30 minutes, or until the cheese is melted and bubbly. Let it sit for a few minutes before serving. This beef and rice casserole is simple, comforting, and packed with nostalgic flavor that will have you coming back for more. Dish 24, Beef and Cheddar Stuffed Baked Potatoes. Stuffed baked potatoes are a timeless classic, and beef and cheddar stuffed baked potatoes take this concept to the next level. These potatoes have everything you need in one dish: savory ground beef, gooey cheese, and a fluffy potato that serves as the perfect vessel. This meal became popular in the 1960s and 1970s as families looked for simple yet satisfying dinners. It's the kind of dish that's perfect for a weeknight or a casual weekend meal, and it's guaranteed to please even the pickiest eaters. The beauty of stuffed potatoes is that they are as customizable as they come. You can load them up with whatever toppings you like, but beef and cheddar are a classic combination that never goes out of style. The combination of crispy potato skin, tender potato flesh, and flavorful beef filling is simply irresistible. This dish can be served on its own as a hearty dinner or as a side to go with other dishes. It's comfort food at its best, and you can easily prepare it for a crowd or make individual servings. You can make the dish with russet potatoes, ground beef, onion, garlic, Worcestershire sauce, cheddar cheese, sour cream, butter, salt, pepper, and olive oil. Preheat your oven to 400 degrees. Scrub the russet potatoes clean and poke a few holes in each with a fork. Rub them with a little olive oil and sprinkle with salt, then place them directly on the oven rack. Bake for 45 to 60 minutes, or until the potatoes are tender when pierced with a fork. While the potatoes bake, heat a skillet over medium heat and add a little olive oil. Brown the ground beef in the skillet, breaking it apart as it cooks. Add chopped onions and minced garlic, cooking until softened, about 5 minutes. Stir in a splash of Worcestershire sauce and season with salt and pepper. Once the potatoes are done, cut a slit down the center of each and gently fluff the insides with a fork, creating space for the filling. Scoop out a bit of the potato flesh and mix it with the cooked beef mixture. Add a little butter and sour cream to the mixture, then stuff it back into the potato skins. Top with a generous amount of shredded cheddar cheese and return the potatoes to the oven for another 5 to 10 minutes, or until the cheese is melted and bubbly. Serve these stuffed potatoes hot and enjoy a hearty, comforting meal that's bound to be a crowd favorite. Dish 25, beef and spinach lasagna. Beef and spinach lasagna is a twist on the classic Italian dish, adding a little extra green to the mix with spinach. This hearty, comforting dish was a favorite in mid-century American kitchens, especially during the colder months. Lasagna became popular in the 1960s and 1970s as more families embraced Italian cuisine, and beef lasagna, with its rich layers of meat sauce, cheese, and pasta, became a go-to dish for special occasions and Sunday dinners. The addition of spinach in this lasagna brings not only a boost of nutrition, but also a pop of color that brightens up the dish. Whether you're making it for a family dinner or a potluck, beef and spinach lasagna is always a crowd pleaser. The richness of the beef, the creaminess of the cheese, and the slight bitterness of the spinach create a harmonious balance of flavors that's hard to resist. What's more, lasagna is always better the next day, making it a great make-ahead option for busy nights. This classic comfort food is one you'll want to keep in your dinner rotation. You can make the dish with ground beef, onion, garlic, spinach, ricotta cheese, mozzarella cheese, Parmesan cheese, lasagna noodles, marinara sauce, eggs, salt, pepper, olive oil, and Italian seasoning. Start by preheating your oven to 375 degrees. Cook the lasagna noodles according to the package instructions. Once cooked, drain and set aside. In a skillet, heat a little olive oil over medium heat. Brown the ground beef, breaking it apart as it cooks. Add chopped onions and garlic, cooking until softened and fragrant. Stir in the marinara sauce and Italian seasoning, and let the sauce simmer for 10 to 15 minutes. While the sauce is simmering, cook the spinach in a separate pan until wilted, about 5 minutes. Drain the spinach well to remove any excess moisture, then chop it finely. In a mixing bowl, combine ricotta cheese, beaten eggs, and half of the Parmesan cheese. Stir in the chopped spinach and season with a pinch of salt and pepper. To assemble the lasagna, spread a little meat sauce on the bottom of a greased 9x13 baking dish. Layer lasagna noodles on top, followed by a layer of ricotta spinach mixture, a layer of meat sauce, and a sprinkle of mozzarella cheese. Repeat the layers until all ingredients are used up, finishing with a layer of mozzarella cheese on top. Cover the dish with foil and bake for 30 minutes. Then remove the foil and bake for another 10 minutes, or until the cheese is bubbly and golden. Let the lasagna rest for 10 minutes before slicing and serving. Well, there you have it, 25 forgotten ground beef recipes that have stood the test of time, each one packed with the kind of warmth and comfort that only a home-cooked meal can bring. From hearty casseroles to satisfying one-pan wonders, these dishes were once the cornerstone of family dinners, potlucks, and cozy nights in. And while some may have fallen out of favor, there's no reason why we can't bring them back, one savory bite at a time. As we've seen, ground beef is more than just a budget-friendly option. It's a canvas for some of the most delicious, simple meals that connect us to the past and remind us of simpler times. The smells, the flavors, and the memories they evoke are just as comforting today as they were when these recipes first graced our kitchens. So, the next time you're looking for a meal that'll satisfy the whole family, reach for one of these nostalgic classics. Because a little bit of history on your plate never hurt anyone. Don't forget to share these recipes with your loved ones, and maybe even create some new memories of your own. After all, these dishes are not just about food, they're about family, tradition, and the joy of gathering around the table together. Thanks for joining me on this trip down memory lane. I hope you found a few new favorites to add to your own recipe box. Until next time, happy cooking, and here's to the dishes that never go out of style.